Brad, I want to welcome you to Beyond Cinema Studios, and congratulations, because this is such a feat, and it moved me in so many ways.
Thank you.
First of all, I want to ask, how did you get access to this footage?
Most of the footage came from, was provided by Kurt's parents and his wife and daughter. And then once the ball got rolling, people knew that we were making the film. Other people sort of would come forth with footage to sort of fill out the cracks. But I think most of the stuff that people respond to is the stuff that was Kurt's.
Mm-hmm. And how did you finally convince his family to give this stuff to you? Did HBO, was it HBO or you?
No. I was. They financed the film. Courtney came to me in 2007 with the idea, so it wasn't that I approached them.
Gotcha.
So the chain of title, if you will, was it went from Courtney to Frances to Wendy to Dave and Chris, and so everything sort of came together.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think because this is going to be distributed through HBO, so many more people are going to see it, and you've worked with them before. So tell me about the advantages of that relationship.
This was a really unusual situation in that the movie, we have two partners on the film, Universal Pictures and HBO. Universal Pictures will be releasing the film all over the world starting, I think, at the end of March.
Okay.
March and April will be internationally released theatrically. HBO will be doing it May 4th in the U.S. And when we were contemplating our deals in the U.S., we had offers for theatrical and, in fact, deals with more money involved. But I wanted to go with HBO because I don't think anybody does documentaries the way HBO does. And I don't think anyone can market documentaries the way HBO can. And so, and you know, it's a great place, a great home, really supportive. I mean, it's you know, they're the place.
Well, they encourage innovation too, I feel like.
Listen, when I presented the film, when I sent them the film the first time, it was 30 minutes beyond what was contractually committed, and they didn't give me any notes. They just said, make the film you want to make.
Hallelujah.
And that was same thing from Universal. You know, make the film you want to make.
That's
and
great.
That was like a heavy responsibility, but it was also like just the greatest
Wonderful.
gift.
Well, I do feel like the way that you display a lot of the footage that you've got, a lot of the writing from Kurt and the audio stuff, you use animation, which you did in Chicago 10. But tell me about where the ideas to use animation in this way came for this film and who you brought onto the team to do some of the animation. Yeah,
there are two different forms of animation in the film. There's animation that's used to sort of depict Kurt himself. That was done by a Dutch animator named Hisko Husling.
It's very Scanner Darkly.
Well, no, that stuff was hand painted in oil paintings and just intricately done. I think there were 5,000 drawings and I mean, really intricate work. And then the other challenge was to bring Kurt's journals to life. And we brought in the amazing motion graphics artist Stefan Nadelman. And that was a challenge that took about a year to build the aesthetic. You know, it wasn't like we could just borrow, like, hey, here's a journal or here's a newspaper, you know, just do some run-of-the-mill thing. How we treated it, how we textured it was part of the storytelling.
I love it. Just the wings flapping up and down. I mean, it's just fantastic. And I really like that you didn't have a lot of talking heads. You were very specific with who you chose. So tell me about who you chose and why.
Well, I chose the 5 closest people in Kurt's life. There was nothing challenging about it. It was his mother, his father, his sister, his first girlfriend who he went out with for 3 years, and his wife who he was with for 3 years, and his best friend. And
now, why isn't Dave Grohl involved?
Dave Grohl was recording his album when we were shooting the film, and he wanted to be in the film. I wanted him to be in the film. We weren't able to do an interview until about 3 weeks ago. So we did do an interview. It was just after picture lock. And
will it be in the theatrical release?
It might be. I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, I just wondered. He was like the one person that is. It's such an intimate.
But you know, it's funny. People ask about that, but they don't ask about Chad, the original drummer.
Interesting.
So, you know, it's more has to do with, I think, who Dave Grohl is now than who Dave Grohl was then. Because
completely.
The movie's not really about Kurt's experience in Nirvana.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about Kurt's sort of search for a family.
Right. Definitely.
And Nirvana satisfies that to a certain point. And I felt Chris can sort of handle that part of the story. And I didn't want there to be a lot of people talking.
Yeah.
You know, the inspiration was a movie called Lenny, Bob Fosse movie, in which there were only three people who spoke in the film: the mother, the manager, and the wife. And I've always enjoyed that sort of simplicity and intimacy.
Yeah, it is very intimate. Well, I wonder, when you watch the Courtney Love segments, it starts off and you can tell it's day outside, and by the end you can tell it's night. So I was thinking, okay, were you there all day? How do you actually conduct those interviews? Do you have questions planned? Do you hang out?
I have questions that are designed to be done during the day, and I have questions that are designed to be done during the night. I wanted the film to have a sweeping effect of going from day to night, which was quite complicated because if a subject would start talking about something in the wrong lighting setup, it wasn't like we could use it in the other place. Like I couldn't take some of this if they said, so it was much more complicated than a typical interview setup. So you literally, so that's it. So Courtney's interview, because I knew that was going to be in the third act of the film, that would be the transitional one that takes you straight from day to night. So her interview ostensibly starts at like 4 o'clock, and then we go into the night with it.
And she doesn't start talking about the cheating in London and stuff till it's dark outside. It gives it sort of a formidable tone, which I really enjoy.
Well, I think that you should, when you're making a documentary, you have limited tools to communicate your story to the audience. And a lot of times people just put a camera up to do interviews like you guys are doing that has no relation to the content of what I'm saying.
Right.
And so, to me, if you're directing an interview, you're directing. So where should the camera be? What should the lighting be? And the challenge is to be able to figure that stuff out and then feed them questions that are appropriate to that.
Right.
Get what you need in that setup, move the camera, then go to your next line of questioning.
Like
but if you want to be lazy, I'm not accusing you guys of being lazy, but if you want to be fucking lazy and just set up a camera and have someone talk, that's great. If you want to make a movie, make a movie.
Well, I love that his dad, you have a lot of shots of Kurt's dad from the side.
The profiles, yeah.
Which makes him sort of mysterious, at least to me. But, so when you get all of this footage of Kurt, I assume...
I think he might have been mysterious to Kurt, too.
Exactly. He's aiding the film, totally. When you get all of this footage, I assume you're a Nirvana fan and you have a personal connection to Kurt. Was there anything that stuck out to you that particularly moved you, that you found, whether it be in his journals or in his home videos?
Oh, yeah, the whole, everything. I mean, the letters to Frances, in particular, as a father with 3 kids, to me, it's really, it's a movie about connecting and family origins and trying to Kurt desire to have this family. So I found all that stuff to be, anything related to that, to be really sort of humanizing and ripe with emotion. And
right.
And to me, in the midst of doing this whole film, I certainly lost sense of him as anything other than Kurt Cobain, not Nirvana, Kurt, not a rock star. He's just this kid, this guy that we're the same age, and I really felt, because I was given so much material to try to get into him, and if you died, I don't know what your story's all about, or I'll tell you this: if I died, you'd have a very hard time recreating anything.
Yeah.
With Kurt, there was so much stuff to try to figure out to get a better sense of who he was, and in a sense, I feel like a lot of what I was looking at was stuff that his friends didn't have access to. Like none of his friends had ever heard that story that he tells about losing his virginity.
Yeah. Nobody
knew that tape was in existence. Tracy didn't know about it. Courtney didn't know about it. I mean, it was in Courtney's storage facility, but she had never heard it. And so there was all this stuff that was so intimate that is like in a way I really I've been very emotional all week. I was like the last few minutes of the film here, so I was very emotional simply because when you make a film with a living subject, you spend a lot of time with that subject, and the film's over and you move on. And this was a totally different experience, and and yet at the same time, it's the same story where you have to move on. You know,
Yeah.
my whole life can't be Kurt Cobain as it was
Right.
for the last couple of years. So
Well, I mean, being consumed in his story, and you've done music docs before, how did you grow as a documentarian, and maybe even a father? Are there certain ways that you feel like you've gained new tools emotionally or as a filmmaker?
no, I think every movie is different. You got to the film about the Rolling Stones can be as different as a film about Cobain, or a film, you know, every or Bob Evans, whatever. So I think you sort of like each film, you're sort of starting new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so
All right,
much.
thank you.